Welcome to Geek on Film with your host, Robbie Holmes. Hey there, folks. This is episode 34 of Geek on Film. I'm Robbie, and again, I'm by myself. John is actually off supporting his amazing wife and his baby. Hopefully we'll have him back next week so this can turn back into a conversation show and less about Robbie's thoughts on film and television. I look forward to having John back. I miss him so much, but I'm so glad that they get a chance to spend some time together. So thanks, John. Hopefully we'll see you soon, and good luck, my friend. We're going to jump into some television that I watched this week and the week before. So we're coming out of the Oscars episode. So I didn't really talk about anything that we had done previously. We want to finish out and close out the Last of Us conversation. So we enter episode number 9, Look for the Light. And we have this amazing opening of a young woman who's pregnant, who ends up in a home way out in the woods or in a field, and is being obviously chased by some infected. And we see this unbelievable sequence unfold where she eventually, the infected gets into the room where she's barricaded herself, and she ends up killing the infected with a very familiar looking switchblade that turns out to be the knife that Ellie has been carrying throughout the entire show. And it's because we realize this is her mother, and she's giving birth, and in the process of giving birth, she's bit, which is pretty amazing. So the sequence is very harrowing. The actress who plays her mother is Ashley Johnson, who was actually the actress who did the motion capture and voice for Ellie in the video game. So this sort of full circle moment where we get a chance to see the creator of Ellie with the creators of the game getting a chance to give birth to the character. It's really powerful. It's really beautiful. I can't believe what they pulled off. And we have to take a step back and remember, right? Like, this is sort of the introduction of Ellie to the world. But very quickly we see that Marlene and some of the other Fireflies make it to the house. It turns out that Anna, who's played by Ashley Johnson, and Marlene have been lifelong friends. And she tells her she has to take the baby. Her name is Ellie. She's strong. Give her this. Hands her the switchblade. And that you have to kill me. So Marlene, after a little bit of hesitancy, turns the corner, hands the baby Ellie off to someone else in the Firefly squad, walks back in the room, and she tells them to cover the baby's ears, and she shoots Anna. And we hear the baby start to cry. So within the first hour or two of Ellie's life, she has survived a infected attack that took out her mother, and then watched her mother, or heard her mother, get killed by a woman who's basically like her aunt. It's amazing unfolding, and it cuts directly from the baby to Bella Ramsey as Ellie sitting in the back of a truck. It's the sort of Jon Snow cut when we get the recognition that Jon Snow is actually a Targaryen. Spoilers for Game of Thrones. But you see Ellie sitting there sort of lost in her own thoughts, and Joel coming around with a video game, with a board game in his hand, and she's just not there. She's shell-shocked. She's living with the trauma of what just happened to her in the previous episode. We get this slow unfolding of, like, you see the transition of Joel trying desperately to connect with this girl that he has no ability to reach into right now, and all he wants to do is protect and treat her as his daughter. And she is trying desperately to just make it through what is going on in her head. And we get to these really amazing moments where Joel offers her not to have to go forward, that they could just go back and they could be a part of Tommy's world, and they can, she finally says, like, what was all this for then? Like, I'll go anywhere with you when this is done. I'll go with you to a sheep farm, or I'll go with you to the moon, or this is an amazing amount of, like, I love and respect you, and you're my family, and you're my person, without them ever saying those words. So we're now sort of at the spot where they're having real conversations about what's going on. Joel tells about the man who shot at him was him. After his daughter had died, he became, he realized that there was nothing left for him in this world. And he's been sort of reclaimed by being with Ellie without her acknowledging it initially. And she says to him, like, time heals all wounds. He's like, it's not time, and sometimes it's people. And then you get Ellie being honest about Riley and about the fact that that's the first person that she had to kill. So really moving, like, emotional, moving the chains forward on their emotional connection. But that doesn't bode well in a show like this. So all of a sudden they're attacked by a flashbang, and we cut to Joel waking up in a bed with this really great reveal that looks like it might be blood, and then it's kind of fuchsia, and it's actually the symbol of the fireflies that is the thing that's slowly come into focus. So Marlene is at the door, which is a big reveal that, like, she's made it there, that they've made it there. And then you get this sort of amazing moment, spoilers incoming. If you haven't watched it, please go watch the show, pause and go watch it. Joel is told that the only way that this ends is with Ellie is off in getting prepped for surgery, because the doctor believes that because she was her mother may have been bitten, or because of whatever is going on in her body, that there are cordyceps that exist in her body, and that they send out these they send out some chemicals that are basically messengers saying that the cordyceps are already here, you're already a cordyceps, so it stops the infection. But Joel quickly realizes that if the cordyceps are living in the human body, they're living in the brain, so there's no way that Ellie's going to make it out of this. So he basically loses it a little bit, gets mad, gets hit in the back of the head with a gun again, is knocked to the ground, and then Marlene says, take him to the road, give him his pack, hand him this knife. It was Ellie's switchblade, and if he does anything, shoot him. So they're leading him out of this hospital. He eventually, after a few minutes of being pushed and prodded by the fireflies, he eventually makes his move, kills the two that are walking with him, and now we have one of the most amazing, like, muted sequences I've ever seen in television. Apparently this is directly from the video game, where you are just taking out fireflies left and right to get to Ellie. And he makes his way all the way to, it's crazy. It's just, like, muted. You can see his boots. You hear, like, shell casings hitting the floor. He just picks up another gun. It's very, like, cinematic. And he gets to this operating room where Ellie has just been put under, and he tells them to get her out of get the needle out of her arm and let her go. And the doctor comes towards him with a scalpel, basically saying, like, you can't do this. And Joel, without even looking at the doctor, shoots him right in the head, which may have just doomed all of humanity. So the nurses take the needle out of her arm. Of course, it's bleeding. He says, like, fix her arm. And then he carries her down to the elevator. They get out of the elevator in the garage. As they're about to make it to a car, Marlene shows up and really gives Joel a lot of, like, you can't protect her forever. She's going to get torn apart by Ravagers. Like, all these terrible images. And then the show cuts to the car, Joel in a car driving, and you hear Ellie slowly waking up. And then we go to a flashback where we see, while Marlene is talking to Joel, he shoots her in the stomach. He puts Ellie in the car. He goes back, and Marlene is basically saying, like, we can fix this. And he's like, as long as you're alive, you'll come after her. And he shoots her in the head. Really powerful. In the video game, apparently, you don't have a lot of choices. You are sort of forced to be the person that pulls the trigger that does all these things. A lot of video games give you morality choices. This is one where you have to be like, you are now complicit in what Joel is doing. And I feel like it did the same in the television show. They did a great job of showing you all the options, and then sort of I think it's probably a Rorschach test for you to see how you feel about this. They drive off. She's still in her medical garb. She asks a couple of questions. He explains what's going on. It's kind of a convoluted story. That there are many like her. They've tried to do this before. It doesn't work. So they're going to stop trying to find a cure. And that raiders came and attacked and killed everyone. She asks about Marlene and if she's okay. Joel does not answer. Ellie figures it out. Then we get to them and the car dying about 5 miles outside of where Tommy and company are, and they start hiking. And during this, you can hear Joel sort of comparing Ellie to Sarah and some of the reasons why they're similar and they're alike and they're not alike and how much they would have liked one another. And Ellie very pointedly asks him, did everything you tell me about the Fireflies, was it true? And he lies to her. And you get this slow moment of Ellie saying, like, okay. There's a lot of question about what that okay meant. Is it you did all this for me? Like you don't trust me. We were equals. We were at the same level. We were on equal footing. There's a lot of subtext I think we're going to see out of this. But the show ends there, and I'm so impressed with what they were able to accomplish in these 9 episodes. There's been some conversation about the lack of infected and how in the game there's a lot more killing, there's a lot more infected. I think the reality is the gameplay, from what I understand, is about 22 hours. They had 9 episodes here, which would have been about 8 hours of show. So they chose to focus on the storyline of the humans, and they gave us just enough of the infected, the clickers, the bloaters, to give us a sense of what was going on. And it also didn't make us question Joel's humanity as much, and that killing is sort of second nature for all these characters, and it happens constantly. I think that's why the final episode is so powerful, because you get Joel basically killing, I think, 15 or 20 Firefly to get to her, and that is not what we've seen in this world. We haven't seen a lot. In the previous episode, we had Ellie killing the man who was about to rape her and bring her into their world. And that was visceral and violent. But we haven't seen something like this where we have like 20 humans killed by a human. I really loved it. I think you should watch it if you haven't. If you've been holding off till it's over, sorry, I just spoiled it. But I do think it's something that is absolutely one of the pinnacles of television this year. Expect more of this around the Emmys. Now we're into The Mandalorian, folks. So I think we're going to cover episodes 2 and 3. So The Mines of Mandalore and the next episode, The Convert. So The Mines of Mandalore was sort of a real flash fast forward for what we expected from this season. We end up going quickly to see Bo-Katan, back to Tatooine, and then eventually onto Mandalore's surface. We have a fun interaction where you see Din Djarin desperately trying to be the Mandalorian he is by the grace of who he has become, but he's never been to Mandalore before. He's he's uncomfortable in what he is seeing. He doesn't know what to expect. And I bring all that up because of the way things unfold later, and we'll talk about that. So we send off this robot that we all recognize, that was the malfunctioning unit that the Jawas try to sell Luke back in the day, and it's been fixed and motivated. It has a motivator unit and all kinds of other stuff, but it's definitely scared, doesn't like adventure, and we see it roll off into the distance, trying to figure out what's going on. And Grogu is very concerned about this droid. Din says we can watch it on the radar. Of course, the blip disappears. Off goes Din to try to figure out what's going on, and ends up going and getting attacked by creatures that he doesn't recognize, and barely survives. Him and Grogu end up going down further into the mines area, and then getting attacked by more creatures, and this amazing, like, monstrous contraption that is kind of like a spider coffin that ends up capturing Din. He loses the Darksaber. He's getting his blood taken out of his body. It's really old school, visceral feeling, like a Harryhausen sort of creature world. It's pretty unbelievable. And then Din tells Grogu to go find Bo-Katan. We watch Grogu make his way back to the ship, gets in the ship. They take off him and the droid, get back to Bo-Katan. One thing that I find really amusing is Bo-Katan. The first time we were on at her castle, she's sitting and like lounging, one leg over the side, and there's no one. It's her and like a droid, and there's no one else in this throne room. There's no one else in this castle. It's almost like she was looking out the window and saw Din coming and was like, "Must act like I don't care," and casual. And asking the droid, like, "Does this look like I don't care?" It's pretty unbelievable to see it unfold. She's about to take Din to task when she realizes when his ship is coming in that it's not Din, it's Grogu. She immediately grabs the droid, grabs Grogu, gets in her ship, and goes directly to Mandalore. So we see sort of her natural, inherent, heroic components to who Bo-Katan is. She may have been led to the downfall of Mandalore, but it is impossible for her to ignore the call to adventure to save someone. So we see her handily dispatching with the things that Din was dealing with before, which is why I brought it up. She's so comfortable and confident in her armor, in her skin, on the surface of Mandalore. All this is second nature to her. She eventually finds her way to where Din is, picks up the Darksaber, uses it as though it's an extension of her arm, and saves Din Djarin. And then, ends up making Pog soup, which is something that all Mandalorians apparently grew up on. So just showing a vast difference between the type of Mandalorian that she is and the type of Mandalorian that Din is. And we eventually get down to the waters underneath the mines. So she reads this amazing plaque, which talks about the fact that this used to be all the reasons why this is an important place. Din takes off his jetpack, goes to walk it and wade in the waters, and immediately goes under. And we see, without hesitation, Bo-Katan diving into the waters to go save Din, gets all the way down to the bottom of what is probably these living waters. And on the way back up, there's a creature, the giant creature that we realize pretty quickly is the mythosaur, the creature of all the heraldry and of all the religious aspects and connotations that up to this point has been felt to be legend, is the symbol of the Mandalorians. And this is supposed to herald the leader of and the person who unifies and brings together the Mandalorians will ride a mythosaur. So we get all the way to the top, and that is sort of how the episode ends. Then we move to the next episode, The Convert, where it opens up right where the last episode ended. And, Din is collecting water from the living waters to prove that he is he is bathed in those waters and is no longer an apostate. We get Bo-Katan asking questions like, did you see anything when you were coming up? And apparently he did not, because he was still knocked out. They head back towards Bo-Katan's castle. As they get there, there are all these Imperial ships that are attacking. They take out handily about 4, and then we turn the corner towards her castle, and we see that it's being bombarded, and they destroy Bo-Katan's castle. And eventually they have to speed off because there's too many of them. And Din gives her some coordinates, says, "Follow me." They won't be able to find us there. And he flies back to where the sect of the Mandalorians that he's a part of, the children, are on their own, and he takes her there, which is pretty impressive. They get there and they're mocked initially for being apostates. And we take a moment, and then we cut to another section of a story. So some people have talked about this as like a sandwich episode. In the middle of this episode, we see basically a TED talk being given by Dr. Pershing, who was the doctor who was working on cloning for Moff Gideon. And he has been accepted into the New Republic, and he's gone through this sort of he's now he's been converted. He's accepted into this world. Even he was kind of forced to do this he was forced to do evil things. And then we see a bunch of people who've gone through this process and they're living together. And one of them is Ella Kane, who is also on Moff Gideon's ship. We get this entire sequence of like them having to like coming together, getting to know one another. We see Pershing questioning everything that's going on in the New Republic. They're basically just cataloging things to destroy them. Ella Kane is leaving him biscuits outside of his room, the things that he misses from his time with the Empire. And then, we end up in this moment where he's questioning whether or not he should continue doing the work he's doing. Ella Kane says he should. We just need to get you a mobile lab unit. They ride these trains that take them out to these sort of places where all the ships that are being decommissioned are, and very quickly they end up inside of an Imperial cruiser or Death Star, a very large ship, and they are stealing a whole bunch of stuff so he can continue his work. And they get caught on the way out. They obviously capture him, and it seems like Ella Kane is they're aware of who she is, and they arrest him and not her. And we get a cut to him being strapped to a table, being put through, reconditioning, which he thinks is a mind flare, but the New Republic has a softer way of talking about it. It's a lower voltage, so it doesn't cause the damage. And eventually Ella Kane is in the room and trying really hard to like act as a compassionate person. And the doctor who's administering this leaves, and she turns the dial. So we're left with, is Pershing's brain mush? Is she trying to show him that the New Republic is as bad as anything that existed before? It's fun to see this all unfolding. I think we're in a situation where we're watching Jon Favreau and Filoni and the rest of the Star Wars writing team trying to square the circle for the things that happened in the sequel trilogy. Like, how did we get Snoke? How did we get back the Emperor, right? How did Palpatine return? I think a lot of that is probably where this is going with like, high metachlorian DNA that has been cloned and merged together with other people. One of the things that Pershing alludes to in his tech talk is that his work was very specifically not about direct cloning, but taking the best parts of two sets of two creatures or two strands of DNA and bringing them together. So I think that's where a lot of this is going. We cut back to the children of the law, the children of the Watch, the Mandalorian sect, and they finally let everybody into the cave. And Din hands over the water. The armorer validates that the water is the living waters, so he's obviously bathed. And turns around and welcomes both Bo-Katan and him back into the fold. They're no longer apostates. And asks Bo-Katan if she's taken off her helmet, and she's bathed in the waters to save our friend Din, and she has not. So all of a sudden, Bo-Katan is part of this sect and is welcomed in. As long as she does not take off her helmet, as long as she abides by their rules, she will be a child of the Watch. And that's how it ends. I think it's a pretty great episode. I think there's a big distinction between this and Andor at this point, from my perspective. Both are really good. One feels like Saturday morning cartoons, which is Mandalorian. Not to take anything away from it, but it's a little shinier. It's a little softer. The stories that are being told are a little more approachable. Whereas to me, Andor felt like prestige 10 p.m. television show that you would have got back in the day. Very different stories, both really well done. And I'm looking forward to more of this. I don't know where this is going to end this season, which is nice. There's no way for me to pinpoint what I think the end point is for the show. We have lots of options for who's going to ride the Mythosaur. It's probably Din. It could be Bo-Katan. It could be Grogu, right? Like, he could be the thing that brings everything back together and in order, right? Like, he's part Jedi and part Mandalorian. Who knows? But I'm looking forward to more episodes of this. So I'm going to jump over to some films. So we'll start with a movie that was kind of made in a lab for me. I'm a huge fan of Noah Baumbach. His film While We're Young, it somehow never ended up on my radar. It's Ben Stiller and Naomi Watts as a couple in their 40s, Josh and Cornelia, and he is a documentarian. Naomi Watts as Cornelia is a producer and works on documentaries also. Her father is sort of a master documentarian. And we're introduced to Adam Driver and Amanda Seyfried as Jamie and Darby. They audit Josh's class and then basically insinuate their way into their lives. And the movie is all about sort of seeing a couple in their 40s sort of try to decide whether or not they want to remain where they are and with their circle of friends and the type of things that they're interested in, or being infused with this like new energy and inspiring the next generation, almost having like acolytes of their own. It's a really amazing movie. I think, the one thing I will say is I'm a huge fan of watching Noah Baumbach create stories with characters that are just a hair off of the norm. Adam Driver in this film plays a character who's maybe like just a little sociopathic in the way he sees the world, but he's charming and he's Adam Driver. And we see Amanda Seyfried's character reckoning with who Jamie is as a character and realizing like how he is utilizing her in his world to get further. It's unbelievable. I think the Naomi Watts plays this great character who is initially really skeptical and then sort of falls all in with their new life and the things that they're a part of. She's desperately trying to reconnect with her husband and also like reconnect with who she is. And I think the last piece and the one I will call out is Ben Stiller should have probably gotten nominated for this film. The arc that he goes on as a character, who he is in this movie, the last 30 minutes, you see sort of him reckoning with who he is, what he wants to be, that he's not the man he wishes he could be, and then watching everything unfurl for him and then come back together in a really different way than I think they were expecting at the beginning of this movie. So the characters go on a huge journey, Josh and Cornelia, throughout this film. And really, it's beautiful. I think Adam Driver really solidified himself as sort of an extreme force in film in this movie. I wish I had gotten to see it when it came out. And Amanda Seyfried is unbelievable. She's so good as playing a character who seems as though she's not aware of the world around her or not aware of how she's being utilized. And then we realize that she gets it and she understands it. She's not being manipulated. She's complicit because she feels like it's her role. It's really an amazing film. I highly suggest it. If you're looking to watch it, it is available on, of course, on Blu-ray and Amazon, anywhere you can get video on demand, but it's also on Canopy and HBO Max. I'll jump over to John Wick. Just a rewatch for me this upcoming week is John Wick 4 week. I assume that will likely be the main review next week, unless something else jumps out at me between now and then. But John Wick, it's so much fun to revisit this film and how much control this film has. You go from these moments that are completely unrealistic in a grounded way to these really emotional moments, to these really, really heartbreaking moments. I think that's why this movie works. The opening sequences where you see John Wick's wife going through everything she's going through and then passing away, and then you see John on his own, and then you see him introduced to the dog, and here, spoilers incoming, the way that he meets he gets reintroduced to the sort of underworld by, a character basically wanting to buy his car and then showing up at the house, stealing the keys and killing his dog, and how that's handled and how quietly and emotionally it's creating this, who this man is and why he is the way he is and what he's willing to do. It's really controlled is the way I would put it. Like, I don't know that's what I thought of when I saw this movie the first time, but revisiting it, I love the sort of competent, sloppy fighting, right? Like John Wick uses whatever is at his disposal to take care of what needs to get done. It's not these polished fight sequences. It's it is improvisational fighting. It doesn't seem like this has been, scripted to high holy hell, even though I'm sure it is. The visceral and the ability for this character to improvise or feel like they're improvising is astounding. It turns into a video game. It gets completely unrealistic, but it's also extremely fun. Watching John Wick get his really his vengeance on these people that brought him and dragged him back into this world, and also killed his dog and protected the guy who killed his dog, is really amazing. I'm excited to revisit John Wick 2. I don't have a lot of remembrances or recall for what that film story is. I've never seen John Wick 3. I bought these all as a box set of 3 4K Blu-rays recently, probably about 6 months ago, and haven't gotten around to watching them. So this is a great way for me to crack that open and go back into the Wickiverse, as probably next week's main review will continue and cap off. So it was really fun. You should watch it. It's currently available on Peacock TV. Of course, you can get it anywhere you can stream. The last film I'm going to talk about this week before the main reviews is Sunshine. So the Blank Check podcast is currently, or has been, doing Danny Boyle's filmography. This is yet another one of Danny Boyle's films that was written by Alex Garland. And I don't know how this film passed me back when it came out in 2007. But for those of you that are not aware, I will just read the casting. Like, this is unbelievable. We have Cillian Murphy, Rose Byrne, Chris Evans, Cliff Curtis, Michelle Yeoh, Hiroyaki Sanada, Benedict Wong, Troy Garrity, and Mark Strong. Yeah, I said all those names. It's crazy, the cast that is part of this movie. So the story is we're 2057 and the sun is actually burning out. So we're in an ecological disaster, not like climate change on Earth, but climate change has impacted the sun. So the sun is slowly going out, so Earth is freezing. This is the second mission to try to save this. The first was called Icarus. This is Icarus 2. I love the naming. I think it's really charming. The movie is really about the loss of humanity as you get closer to the sun, and that there is one and only one mission for this crew to be taking on, which is they've given up their lives in order to save humanity. I won't get into any real spoilers. This is a movie that I feel like you should watch with as little information at all for the last half hour. But also, I'm just really impressed with the story that's told here. The cast really is unbelievable at their decisions being made left and right. It feels extremely lived in. It feels almost like an Alien, like the control and the groundedness of the characters. Like, everybody's personality pretty quickly. You have an idea of why people don't like one another. There's Chris Evans is a little bit of an alpha. Cillian Murphy is a little more introspective. He's a physicist. And I love that, like, within, the first 20 minutes, they end up in a fist fight, basically, and they're rolling around on the floor, and everybody else is just like, stop wasting oxygen. It's pretty crazy. I cannot believe this film exists. I think you should do yourself a favor and watch it. 2 notes. One, it's available everywhere you can PVOD. It is not available on any streaming service that I'm aware of. 2, apparently the Blu-rays, a large portion of them are actually defective. So if you buy this, you may either you're playing the lottery about getting a effective Blu-ray. Apparently they did a recall or a resubmission. You could contact them and get it replaced. I got lucky. I bought this recently and didn't know about this situation, and mine worked perfectly fine. But again, I didn't realize I was rolling the dice when I bought the movie. So that's it for my films for this week. I'm going to jump over to the main review. That's where we'll pick up. So here we go. So I'm going to dive into Scream 6. Here we are in New York City with the Carpenter Girls. So Sam and Tara, played by Melissa Barria and Jenna Ortega. And the twins, Mindy and Chad, played by Jasmine Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding. So they've moved to New York City to go to college. It's kind of convoluted. Feels really weird. We have a bunch of people living together. They have an additional roommate. Chad is actually living in the dorms. His roommate is part of this. So we have a group of unknowns that are now part of this ecosystem. The movie opens with a woman who is sitting at a bar waiting for her date. Turns out it's Samara Weaving. She's playing Laura Crane, who is a professor of horror films. It seems like everybody is supposed to be going to NYU. At least that's the impression it gives off. So we end up with her getting a phone call from her date, which is a first date situation. That person seems to be lost, can't find the restaurant that they're supposed to be meeting her at. And then the person asks if the restaurant is red. So it sends her outside. There's talk of like, oh, it looks like I think I can see it across this alley. She ends up walking into this alley, asking, there's a lot of like back and forth about whether or not he can see her or she can see him. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get the reveal of Ghostface coming up and mocking her for basically falling into the trap of every horror movie. You teach classes about this. I can't believe you fell for it. And then we're in this crazy sequence of watching her die. She's killed very viscerally, very angrily, lots of stabs. And then all of a sudden we have Ghostface take off the robe and mask and put him in a backpack. And it's the actor Tony Revolori, who's playing Jason Carvey. He walks back to his dorm. He comes into his apartment. It's supposed to be him and a roommate. They talk about the fact that he gets a phone call. He's looking for his roommate. They're not there. They talk about the fact that they were going to kill together, that this has sort of been them wanting to kill the Carpenter girls. So again, weird connection to this world, but we get this great moment of like him not wanting to talk on the phone, eventually talking on the phone, playing hot and colds. There's some cameras in the apartment. And eventually we realize that we have another Ghostface on the phone and it's not his friend and his roommate. There's a great reveal when he opens a refrigerator to find his roommate cut up and put in there. And then Ghostface appears and kills this person. It's pretty unique and different. I really like it as an opening to these types of films. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through the sort of really convoluted storyline that we go through here. I will give you some impressions. So we get Kirby Reed back, Hayden Panettiere. She's now works at, I think it's the FBI. She's fun. It's fun to see her return. We have Gail return also. She, of course, shows up as soon as somebody dies in this ecosystem to try to be the person on the front lines of reporting this. So we get a lot of the legacy characters, a nod to Nev Campbell's character, Sydney, and that she is not coming here because she deserves, her happy ending. It's a little bit weird to acknowledge it, even though the reason that she's not in this movie is that they wouldn't meet her quote and she didn't get paid what she thought she should to be in this film. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on in this movie. We end up with the core four a lot, which is Sam Carpenter, Tara Carpenter, Mindy, and Chad. I think they sort of wasted the premise of being in New York. There's one great sequence in a bodega that takes place that's in the trailer. There's also a pretty good sequence that takes place in a train. The thing is, the train lights are going on and off because they're losing connection with the third rail. If you grew up in New York, it's a pretty common occurrence back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that the train would rock and lose connection to the third rail, so the lights would go off. This is no longer something that happens very frequently. So it felt a little antiquated, but it's used to great effect. They're on a train with all these, it's around Halloween. So everybody's dressed up in all these like super villain sort of evil characters. There's all kinds of characters in this train, including a bunch of ghost faces. And the use of like the lights going out because they lose the connection and then it coming back on and the ghost face is a little bit closer, really well done. It just feels a little not out. It feels a little out of time for somebody who knows New York pretty well. Um, yeah, I'm not going to spoil this movie except to say there should have been more kills. They should have been more important. And I will probably see the next one. We're about a year from the last film. We've established the core four now, as they call themselves, even making fun of that nomenclature. Chad is a dork and is the one that came up with it. So it's okay. It's sort of a pretty rock solid 3-star movie. There's nothing too new here. I think the one question I have is it made a lot of money and had a really good opening. But if it wasn't R-rated, I wonder if it would have opened bigger and would have had more legs. You have Jenna Ortega, who's sort of the hottest star under 30 right now, and coming off of the back of Wednesday, where it was very focused towards teens and preteens, and you might have been able to get a few more people to the theater if this was a PG-13. And we've seen some pretty nice and recent PG-13 horror films do well, like Megan. I just wonder what the choice was to go this more visceral, violent route. There's a couple of kills that the violence doesn't really help solidify the impact of the kill. It feels a little gratuitous. But yeah, I think it was fun. I don't know that I would go out, run out to see it. I saw it in the theater. And I think you should think about this as like a fun, we're going to watch this late at night with a bunch of friends. It's just not going to have as much impact if you're by yourself or, without the right audience. I think this is a movie that desperately needs an audience to make it feel more fun. So that's it for Scream 6. Now on to Shazam, Fury of the Gods. This was, I saw this film in Dolby Cinema yesterday. I do not remember much about the first film. I know the character of Shazam and Billy Batson pretty well. I read a lot of comics about him back in the day. This movie is kind of a mess. There is a bunch of scenes that have emotional impact and can really make you care in a short duration. But I'm not going to remember anything about this film in 3 weeks. I think the villains of this movie are the Daughters of Atlas. It's in the trailer. We see very confusing unfolding of those characters and their motivations and who is actually the lead. And none of it really makes a ton of sense. The decision to destroy humanity and Earth instead of resurrecting the land of the gods feels very confusing. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think the kids who are, who were given powers at the end of the last movie, I remember that happening. I remember Shazam breaking a staff. That staff apparently was was holding a barrier between the world of gods and the world of men. Once that was broken, it gave the Daughters of Atlas an opportunity to come back through, to regain that staff, and to eventually find the seed of life, which would allow them to bring back the land of the gods. I think this movie is really Freddie Freeman's movie more than it is almost Billy Batson or Shazam's. We spend a lot of time with Jack Dylan Grazer and him spending time with Rachel Ziegler's character, Anthea. Again, a little bit confusing. She's, spoiler, she's the third of the Daughters of Atlas. There's an uncomfortable joke that the parents make about older women and their sons, because Anthea is Rachel Ziegler, but is 6,000 years old, and she kisses Freddie. So it's just confusing. There's some clever there. I will say the most impactful piece of this is when they finally plant the seed of life in the middle of a baseball field in Philadelphia. The tree grows, and then coming off of that tree are all these pods, which are basically like incubation chambers for monsters. And the effects around these monsters were just really, really well done. This is the aspect of the film that I'll probably come back to. They have cyclopses and minotaurs and chimeras and eventually unicorns, which leads to like one of the craziest, most blatant product placements I've ever seen. They've alluded to Skittles a couple of times. The youngest of the kids is really enamored with Darla with Skittles. We see Faith, who's playing the young Darla, put Skittles in the pockets of a white pair of jeans of her older sister, and it washes and turns them into a rainbow color. Later, you see the super-powered version of her basically pulling Skittles together and then taking out all the strawberry ones and giving only yellow ones to a hostage. And there's an allusion to the unicorns being like the beast of beasts, like the scariest of all the beasts, and that they can only be controlled with ambrosia. And as soon as that was said, I was like, oh man, here we go. Darla is going to give these scary creatures Skittles and win their hearts. We know this because it's in the trailer. We see the kids riding these unicorns in the trailer. Man, this movie definitely suffered from too much traileritis. It's unbelievable how much is in this movie, how much of this movie is in the trailer, and how much of it gives away the important plot beats. I didn't see the latest trailer, which apparently spoils something right at the end. It's not great. I'm very sad to say I don't think this movie has any impact at all, especially with the James Gunn and Peter Safran newly minted DCU. This movie is probably going to create a way to bring Shazam or Captain Marvel into other films in the new universe, because the only other character that's part of this is Wonder Woman. The post-credit sequence in the first one was that Superman came to visit, but we never saw his face. This is pretty terrible. The final sequence is crazy. Not in a good way. It's very like big, fighty, dark CGI fest. There's a big dragon that seems to be made out of wood that looks cool, but it's overwhelming. There's not a lot of stakes, even though everything is on the line. So it just doesn't hold together for me, and it doesn't create any weight or stakes for the people on the ground. We're back to, in the DC universe, watching buildings get crushed and crumbled and never having an impact on a human. Obviously, no one was in these 8 giant buildings that were crushed down in that they threw dragons into, or that Shazam gets thrown through. It's just crazy. I thought they had learned from their previous mistakes with some of the Snyderverse stuff, but doesn't appear so. All right, I will say that I'm going to get into the spoilers for the ending right now. If you have made it this far, thanks for hanging with me for another solo episode of Geek on Film. We're geekonfilm.com, geekonfilm.com on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate and review us wherever you find us. I'm going to jump into spoilers in about 3, 2, 1. So, final fight, basically, Billy realizes all of his siblings have been depowered. He takes the staff, convinces Hespera, who's played by Helen Mirren, to take this dome that she put around the city and confine it to a much smaller space right around the baseball field. And he flies, eventually flying the staff directly into the dragon, directly into the Tree of Life, and calls out the magic word Shazam, and it destroys everything inside the dome. And we come across the dome collapses as Hespera gives up her final breath. Everybody finds Billy. Billy's dead. So don't worry, we're going to solve this because it's a DC movie, and this can't have this death happen. We're going to completely undermine what happened 30 seconds ago. So we see them burying Billy Batson on the Rock of Eternity, and there was talk about the Wizard starts talking about the fact that the only people that could bring back the staff, which would empower them to do all these things because he's holding a dead staff, is a god. Earlier in the movie, There's an allusion to the fact that Wonder Woman is a demigod. Apparently, Wonder Woman appears, walks onto the Rock of Eternity. Don't know that she even knows where it is, but she's there in one of the most amazing. I don't think this actress was anywhere near these actors. It feels like there's a stand-in for some of the scenes that are happening here, and then she is there recording lines. There's other people. I think the coverage is handled by another actor, would be my guess. And eventually she takes the staff and re-empowers it. Doesn't really align to what we heard before, but we're not expected to live in a world with consequences, apparently, or logic. We see now the grave of Billy Batson, the hand of Shazam comes out. So very like zombie-like or like any other horror film. He pulls himself out of the dirt, complains about, you buried me after 2 minutes. So apparently Billy Batson's back as Shazam. He's no longer dead. His sacrifice had no impact. Doesn't really matter. And then there's some chitter chatter about them re-empowering the kids and then fixing stuff with the staff. And so that's it. That's where we're at. We cut to the family house, which was destroyed by that amazing looking wood dragon when it came across into this universe, being rebuilt from the ground up. There's now a sign that says no Shazamming, so that way they won't get lightning strikes in the house. It's the wizard shows up, takes the staff. He's dressed really sharply now. He's going to get a chance to not live in a cave or on a rock or in a castle in a dungeon. It's kind of a waste of Digimon Hansu as the wizard. It's crazy. I don't know that this is really. I can't believe that they spent the amount of money and I spent the amount of time watching this film and thinking about it. So we'll cut to the post-credit scenes. We're one step further now, and we have members of the Peacekeeper show up, and they are walking in the woods. So we have Steve Agee and Jennifer, what's her last name? James Gunn's wife, who is important in the DC universe. She's been in a lot of things. They're walking together they're talking about this character that they want to bring in to the fold. They're very important and powerful. And we come across Shazam using his finger guns of lightning to break bottles. He is ridiculous, silly. They basically offer for him to be a part of Justice Society of America. That's the move. These are characters that, if you are not aware, are very important to the history of the DC universe. They were introduced in Black Adam. We saw Hawkman, we saw Dr. Fate, and a couple of other characters. He asks whether or not it's Wonder Woman's team. There's some jokes about him being quote unquote horny for Wonder Woman. It's not great. It's kind of sad. I really, okay, we end with maybe he's joining the Justice Society. Maybe there was going to be a Shazam 3. Maybe there's going to be a Justice Society movie. Who knows? I don't know if any of this matters. Then there's a post-credit scene where we see our friend Mark Strong appearing in, as he did at the end of the first movie. He's in a jail cell. The mysterious caterpillar returns. And, we're really seeing that this has been 2 years because Mark Strong's character says that. We also have this magical caterpillar telling him that we're not ready yet. There's still some more to do. So we leave him there. There could be a future Shazam film that involve these characters. I have no idea what's going on with the DCU or the DCEU or any of these things at this point. This movie is as like big dumb superhero movie as it gets. If you enjoy big giant fight sequences, lots and lots of powers, lots and lots of characters, and you may enjoy yourself. I found this to be mostly pedestrian and very boring. I don't think I'll think about it again, and I probably won't revisit it. I hope and pray that whatever James Gunn and Peter figure out is something more, engrossing than what we've seen with some of the end of these films. Sorry to be a downer, but that's just the reality of the situation. Okay, that's been my reviews of all the things. Hopefully we'll have John back next week, so it won't just be Robbie on his own, talking like a crazy person into the camera. And I hope and pray that next week's film, John Wick 4, is as good as everyone says. It's apparently almost 3 hours, and the last hour is one long fight sequence from what I hear. I hope it's good, because I could use it after these last two. Thanks, folks. Talk to you soon. See you next week. Bye-bye. This has been a Geek on Film podcast. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.